And then he's doing whatever he wants. Hatta. And this is a reality in our community, that zina is going on. Open. Right? Open zina is taking place. Why? It all started off with what? That simple thing of they did not protect their haya. They did not protect their shame. Right? Similarly with sisters as well. That it starts off with what? With just looking, with just talking, with just messaging. And then the haya leaves. How does the haya leave? Because we see this as well, especially in young people. They start to talk about things that are supposed to be private. Now these things, they become very common. And then few months, few years later, then they're committing zina. And they have no regret in this. And then they have no shame towards it. And this is as a reality of what's happening today, especially to our young brothers and sisters here in our own community. It doesn't take long to look around. But the reality is what? Is the haya is missing. This haya is gone. This haya is lifted. And nowadays, it's getting worse by the day. When we was growing up, I still remember when we was growing up, there was one clip that went around about a woman who was wearing a hijab, and she was dancing. There's only one clip. I remember from my entire school days, there was one clip that went around. And this was from the local in Tower Hamlets somewhere. Brothers from here got together, brothers from Tower Hamlets got together. This guy wanted to beat up that guy. There was a whole other thing going on around it. Obviously what happened, so a lot of it wasn't correct. At that time watching the drama, it was what? That one person, one sister with a hijab on, danced on a video, and it got caught on video. Look how much stuff happened, because people had haya. People had khairan towards their womanhood, right? So they wanted to get the guy who recorded it. They wanted to sort out the guy who hosted it. They wanted to sort out the girl. Everyone was being sorted out. Only 10, 15 years ago. Today, you go on the social media apps, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, what happens? Every 3 videos, there's a woman with a hijab on dancing. What happened over the years is we lost our haya. And as we lost our haya, the men have also lost their khairan. They have also lost their protectiveness over their woman. So now, if your sister, hatta nowadays is getting worse, if your mother is dancing and putting up a video, right? What happens? There's not even a blink of an eye. There's not even a blink of an eye. There's not even shame in our hearts. So this is the reality of what happens when we start to become shameless as people. When we start to move away from haya naturally, then we become completely in that mode where we do what we want, do what you want, whenever you want, however you want. Right? And at the end of all this, we add only Allah can judge us. No one else is allowed to judge, apparently. Right? So this becomes a reality. And then this is the reality of this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sadiq al-Wa'd, everything he said was true. And this is the reality, that the minute we lose our haya. So when it comes to now battling this, how do you stop us from dancing on TikTok? In other words, how do you stop that? To stop it is not to go around saying to everyone dancing on TikTok is wrong. I don't think anybody in their sane mind will come and tell you dancing on TikTok is not wrong. Even the person dancing on TikTok will not tell you that. Isn't it? Right? No one's going to argue that. It's very, very tough anyway, Islamically, to argue it. Even if you go to the most lenient liberal person as a scholar and say, give me a fatwa for this, even he'll be like, it's too much now. Right? You're pushing me. Right? So they won't be able to do it. So how do we fix it? To fix it is to start instilling haya. Start instilling haya in our conversations. Start instilling haya in our circles. Next time somebody speaks to us and says, this particular woman looks nice. Did you see what she was wearing? We say, astaghfirullah, I don't want to see. Let's not talk about these things. Right? Start instilling haya at that level. Next time, if you're watching television, or somebody in your home is watching television, and something comes up which is nudity, then tell them to change it. That's how haya starts. So you need to instill haya on that level, that you start to remove indecency around you. Only then it will creep into our society that actually, no, we're decent people, that we have haya, and we should not be going around doing this crazy stuff. Right? So this is the way to kind of battle haya itself, is to take it out of our language, take it out of our conversations. Nowadays we don't do this. Right? There are people, wallahi, there are people that will go and talk about the private things that they do with their own wives to their friends. Their own wives, what they do, they will talk about it with their friends. Right? This is again, فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. How is this woman now? How is your wife now going to protect and keep herself private from your friend who you've told everything about? Who you've told everything about her? Hatta some of these people, this is the reality of what's going on. So how do you expect now this woman to preserve herself in front of your friends, when you know that this friend of yours, right, knows all her secrets, right? So this is what's happening, because we're lost our haya. So that's why next time our tongue wants to say something about our home people, about our wives, right, then stop yourself and say, no, these are not things that we mention. If somebody tries to tell you about their wife, you say, astaghfirullah, don't speak about your wife to me. You said, like, be blunt. Just say, I don't want to know. Right? And then, that's how you will start. Okay, then people will realize, okay, around this person, I'm not allowed to say these things. And maybe, inshallah, that will have a positive effect. Otherwise, we can scream, stop dancing, all day. No one's going to stop. Because there's not one person who's dancing thinks it's okay. Reality is, they can't prove it's okay. They're only doing it because the haya is gone. So always remember that it's not sometimes the problem of the tabligh itself, the da'wah itself, sometimes it's not at the action, it's at the cause or the root of the action. And sometimes doing it at the action itself, it becomes quite pointless. Right? Because in reality people won't listen. So this is why we need to instill haya first in our own lives. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq for that. And then pass it on. And be people of haya. Be such that people become scared and shameful to speak about these things in front of you. Now I'm not saying become completely boring and dry and don't have any jokes and things like that. No, there is a space and time for all of that as well. But do not let people bring up explicit, personal, exclusive things in front of you, and you just like listen away and think there's nothing wrong with that. Right? Don't let people do that. Say, you know what, talk to me about anything else. Have a joke. Tell me personal things about you if you want. That's fine. But don't bring in other exclusive and personal things in front of you. Like, don't tolerate it. And only then, inshallah, we will instill haya in people. And then that haya that we instill around us will, inshallah, have an effect on other people to stop completely going, obscene, to that complete level of losing their dignity in front of, in public and stuff like that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. So inshallah, that's hadith number 20. For next week, we'll carry on with hadith number 21. Also, I just came back from Umrah. Please pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it from us. It's from the habit of our teachers to give some what we call karbuzari in Urdu, which is some points from our travels and share it with our students and colleagues, just for a sake of remembrance. So inshallah, I'll just mention a few points about our trip. So alhamdulillah, we went to Umrah for 10 days. So I went with 2 friends, and it was the last minute Umrah. It's just we were really I was really pushing to go, and then we ended up planning it, and we went. So alhamdulillah, one of the key points that we found in this trip was that when we landed in Jeddah, we prayed Fajr Salah, and we came out, and one brother, he was saying, do you need a cab, etc. So I don't know, I think you guys probably experienced that. So we found one uncle, he was a Saudi citizen, meaning like he was a native Saudi Arab. So he took us, and on the way to Mecca, and this is something I haven't experienced before, he's like, we started talking, so he's speaking Arabic, so I was able to talk to him. So we're talking for about half an hour. And I think, we grew fond of each other, and he said to me, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yeah, obviously I'm hungry, I just got off a flight." And then he goes, "Bismillah, you're gonna come eat breakfast with me." So then he took me to a shop, took us all to a shop, and he fed us breakfast, and he didn't like let us pay or anything like that. So that was like a different experience, that the first thing you turn up. So one thing is Allah invites you to go to his house, and then, on top of that, the first meal that you had in Makkah al-Mukarramah was from, obviously, a guest as well, like somebody hosted you. So he felt extra special to go to this Umrah. And then once we done our Umrah, mashallah, if you do your Umrah at 9 a.m. in the morning, because it's quite hot, then there's nobody there. So it's very less people. So we were able to do our entire tawaf in less than 25 minutes. Then we went and done our Safa Marwa in less than 40 minutes. So alhamdulillah, things were very easy. Alhamdulillah, got to spend one Jummah in Mecca. And again, it wasn't too busy. We got out of our hotel around 10 o'clock, and we made it to Jummah nicely on time. Then we went to, obviously, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam city, Madinatul Munawwara. Another sunnah that we accidentally got to do on the way, which was beautiful, was while we were driving to Madinatul Munawwara, then Asr Azan went. So I told the driver, let's pull over for Asr Salah. And we were just close to Medina now. And initially we thought we're going to make it to Masjid Nawawī for Asr Salah. But he was like, okay, yeah, let's pull over. We pulled over, and the masjid we pulled over was Masjid Quba. Right? So it was very interesting, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he entered Madinatul Munawwara, he stopped at Masjid Quba, right? And he prayed. Well, he was there for 3 days, but alhamdulillah, on our way to Madinatul Munawwara, we stopped at Quba first, prayed our Asr Salah, went to eat something, and then by the time we got to Masjid Nabawi, we were there for Maghrib Salah. So again, that was another little bit of the journey, which was really you could say fulfilling. Other than that, alhamdulillah, Madinatul Munawwara, it's the city where your heart becomes alive, right? So we spent some days in Madinatul Munawwara, and then we came back, and then we stopped at Turkey on the way. We have a madrasa there, so we went to see and do some projects with the madrasa, and then we came back to England on Monday. So alhamdulillah, the trip went well. Make dua that Allah accepts it and continues to call us to his blessed lands. And on this one extra point I want to start, especially with the political climate now, there is an anger that Muslims have towards the ruling or the rulers of, for example, Saudi, right? And that anger comes from a place of, obviously, a love for the brothers and sisters of Palestine. And without a doubt, there will be some anger that we will have. There is a lot of things we would disagree with. But one thing is, do not let that anger translate into having animosity towards Makkatul Mukarramah and Madinatul Munawwara. Right? So obviously there's a time and place for this anger, but don't let it ever affect your love for Makkah and Medina. Right? Remember, if it is affecting your love for Makkah and Medina, then it becomes that anger is not coming from the right place. Do you understand? So be very careful here, very, very careful here. That I saw this a lot. Like recently, someone even went to the extent of saying you should boycott Umrah. Astaghfirullah. This is, however much there's a time and place for boycott or whatever it may be, but you can't do this. This is the shi'ar of Allah, the grave of my Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will give up our lives, not just ours, and I don't say this lightly. I'll give up my mom and dad, I'll give up my kids, I'll give up my wife. So I will give up the entire Philistine as well for the grave of my Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, we should remember like this, that there's a time and place for everything. So we should never let that any anger we have, anything that might be happening to the Muslims around the world, which is, again, there's a time for that. And yes, we're angry about it and we're upset about it. But don't let it ever translate into having any animosity towards Kaaba of Allah and the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a very like illogical and a thing of ignorance to let that creep into our hearts. So inshallah, make dua again. Allah accepts it and calls us hundreds and hundreds of times in our lifetime. And there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, die in Medina. Die in Medina. Right? That's a hadith. It's narrated by Ibn Majah. So again, for this hadith as well, like make dua. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to say that, oh Allah, take my life in Medina. And then he used to add, also make me shaheed. So Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anha, al-Mu'mineen, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife, she says to Hazrat Umar, that's her father, she says, what an odd dua. You're asking to die in Medina, which we understand, we all want to die in Medina, but you want to become shaheed as well in Medina. So what do you want, a war to come to Medina? Do you see, nobody wishes a war on Medina. So he goes, make your mind up, which one of the two you want. So he says, no, my Prophet said to die in Medina and to die shaheed. So I want both. Right? And Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah listens to his du'as. Right? So what happened? He's in Medina, leading the salah in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid, and somebody comes and stabs him from the back and kills him. Do you see? So he died as shaheed in Medina. So for that we make lots of dua that Allah take our life in Medina and bury us next to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil
alamin. Are we able to touch the stone?
Huh? No, that is in fighting, so I don't bother.
Next step, inshallah.
And then he's doing whatever he wants. Hatta